Hey friends, welcome back to the Good Body Podcast. My name's Amanda Picken. Today I have a very special guest, Samantha Kozuch. She is the manifesting queen, and I cannot wait to dive into so many topics. And to give you more about her background, she is the author and creator behind the Maniscripting Journal, this beautiful book right here. I can't wait to dive into this. She's also a public speaker, a mindset coach. So we are going to talk about manifesting, mental health, how to reach our wellness goals. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you so much for having me, Amanda. I'm so excited to dive into this juicy conversation we're about to have.
I think it will be juicy.
Yeah.
I am excited. So the Maniscripting Journal, a life design journal and ritual guidebook. So I've only been able to play with this for about a week, but I have been able to sort of get the overall view of it. And wow, my first impression is I wish I had this 10 years ago,
Right.
or maybe 20 years ago. It's like the most beautiful gift you could give someone. And I'm so excited to be working with it now. But it is more complete than I expected it to be. There's so many more tools, rituals. I think when it comes to manifesting, people are intrigued because it's there's this magic you can tap into. But the other side of the coin is, manifestation kind of gets a bad rap too. You can't just wish something and it happen. You can't just think it and it'll come true. And your journal bridges the gap. So I so appreciate that. So I want to get into some of those practical tips within the journal, but there's got to be a story behind how this beautiful magical book came to be. So yeah, give us a little insight into how you got into manifesting and how you made the journal.
Yeah, the journal was actually never a planned business or thing that I ever thought I would do in my life. I was very much in the online space. I became an entrepreneur basically since I was in college. So it's been over a decade now of entrepreneurship. And throughout those years, I was a model, I was an actress, I had a video production company similar to the kind of studio we're recording in right now. And I slowly got into being a social media coach, an online business coach. And in my 20s, I had hit my personal rock bottom. I was living this really great lifestyle of an entrepreneur during a time when entrepreneurship wasn't cool. It's if you told people you're an entrepreneur, business owner, it was oh, you're a loser. What the hell do you do for money kind
you're
of thing.
You're not corporate.
Right, right. I was very much, the only one in my circle that kind of worked for myself. And as I was modeling, traveling the country, doing all these awesome campaigns, working for myself, I kind of learned more about entrepreneurship and having these different streams of income. So in my 20s, I was doing really well for myself financially. But for that age, looking back, I was I was killing it for that age. Wouldn't say so that now, but back then it was I had the luxury car, the luxury condo, lived in a really fun city of Scottsdale. And, I was doing all the things to make the money, but being in an industry that is constantly criticizing you and telling you how you look and how you should, basically everything to do with that. And being a young woman, that really hit me hard with, not just mental health. And back then, people didn't talk about mental health like it is today.
A lot has changed.
A lot has changed. And back then it was a very much internal struggle where I had a very big ego and nobody talked about, self-development. Unless you were, buying the Tony Robbins CDs or listening into Oprah.
My mom had the CDs.
Right?
I remember.
Yeah. So unless you were tapped into that, which again wasn't popular because social media wasn't even what it is today, then you were kind of left trying to figure things out on your own. And it all revolved around the types of friends that you hung out with. So I was very much, the work hard, play hard, and just being in the scene, living in Old Town Scottsdale, which if anyone's familiar, it's kind of like a mini Vegas. So it was very much a work hard during the week, play hard on the weekends, which meant a lot of nightclubs, all that sort of stuff. And then with that came, my own confidence. I had myself, kind of up on this pedestal of doing stuff for the Instagram, right? Like getting the likes, the comments. I was a model, I was an influencer, doing all these things at a really young age, which in turn, my mental health completely suffered during that. So I didn't have a really great loving relationship with myself, even though back then I thought I did. But the way I treated my body, the way I treated different relationships, the things I was seeking in relationships, especially from men, it was all like, looking back, I was like, oh, damn, girl, you were like a hot mess,
I relate to everything you're saying. I relate to it all. Yes.
So at one point in my mid-20s, it was a typical night out. I was going out and I ended up getting arrested over something really, really stupid. And for me, that was my wake-up call. That was my wake-up call to be like, Sam, like, you are not the girl that gets arrested. Like, even growing up, I was a straight A kid, never got in trouble, always did the best, was like varsity athlete, getting all the trophies. Like, I had never ever really broken a rule, let alone a law ever in my life. So this had really shaken me to my core. And following weeks after that, I felt really just like that guilt and shame of carrying something like that, even though nobody else knew this had happened to me. I was alone in this scenario, but no one had known this would happen to me. And I still carried that shame and guilt. And that
I think sometimes that's like some of the most insidious kind of shame.
Yeah.
It's something you can sweep under the rug. You're not forced to process it or confront it. I think that's really kind of a sneaky kind of shame that can just, I don't know, hit you deep when it's almost a secret.
Yeah, it's a secret. It's like this dirty little secret. But at the time, I still remember this to this day. It felt like everybody knew. And I felt like, oh my gosh, no one's ever going to like book me again for work. I'm never going to be able to get a job. Like this is going to be on my record forever and all those sorts of things. And that just led to me being at a point where I was just basically hiding in my apartment for a few weeks. And I decided, I was like, you know what? I need to change my life. I know I'm unhappy. I know there's more out there for me. And I knew that deep down inside. Like, how you just start ignoring the red flags? And I just kept ignoring. I decided to, not pursue my dreams. If I'm trying to be a model and actress, where do you got to move? L.A. Like go to the place where you're going to go, do it big. And I really made myself small. So I felt big in my world versus going into that bigger world and feel like that small fish.
I get what you're saying.
So from there, I just started Googling how to change your life. And first thing that came up was to watch the movie The Secret, which
I've watched that movie. Yes.
For a lot of us, especially like I'm now in my mid-30s, but for a lot of us back then, like that was kind of the thing to like step into this world of self-development and manifestation.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I watched that and I learned about this new concept of manifesting and that you're the creator of your reality. And I grew up very religious. So this new kind of thought concept was so different, like similar, but very different. And as far as like, no, you're the creator of the reality. It's not like it's given to you. It's like you are the force behind this creation. And that's what really got my mind spinning. And that's when I went down the rabbit hole of learning more about it, of like the self-development and asking myself different questions and creating the vision boards. And that's where I really first started. So from there, I kind of started doing that at 25. And I started doing that for myself. I literally turned my life around. Within the next few months, I had packed up, moved to LA, changed my life, changed my circle of friends. My abundance and everything coming in was just incredible. And I just kept doing that every single day, journaling exactly what I wanted, visualizing what I wanted, having that vision board really helped. And I just like had this incredible morning and just daily practice because now living in LA, I was alone and I hadn't met many people yet. So I had that time to myself to kind of do those things and get real clear on what it is that I wanted for my future. So that starts happening. Fast forward to COVID. So this is now 3 years ago.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. COVID. Sometimes it's like you forget COVID happened.
I
You like
know,
lost a couple years, but it sounds like maybe something pretty cool was like born during
right?
that time.
It's like this bookmark in everybody's life
Yeah.
where it's like,
Yeah.
one, where did that time go? But also, we all remember what happened like for ourselves during that time.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, like I mentioned, like my career had just like pivoted and evolved over the years, was really happy in entrepreneurship. And at this point, I'm an online business coach because over the years I learned how to build businesses and I started doing it with others online. And during the time of COVID, of course, when it hit and the world shut down, it was just pure chaos, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
People were losing their jobs, lives, health, just everything is crashing down. And here as a business coach, and at the time, it's like when you're teaching business, you're also teaching a lot of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
You're helping these new entrepreneurs step up, gain their confidence, launch their products and all that sort of stuff. And all of a sudden, they're like, oh my gosh, well, how the heck am I going to launch if, no one's buying, no one's making money, like all these sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I just started slowly, never before, but I finally had started sharing my practices of how I kept my vision. Because at one point when I had hit my rock bottom, I knew what that felt like, maybe in a different capacity, but I knew what it felt like in my world to just like hit that bottom. And no one was coming to save me. No one was coming to help me. And I had to figure it out. So I just started sharing little things about journaling, like the prompts that are inside the journal today.
Mm-hmm.
I started sharing this is how you do it. If you need additional help, like create that vision board, create something that reminds you every single day that that's the goal, whether it's to launch a business or get your health back or get a new job or start a new career, all of these different things. And I also plugged in different meditations and different sorts of things to help reprogram and also not even just reprogram the current subconscious mind, but also block out the noise because at that time, remember, it was just everywhere. You couldn't escape negative news.
So much noise.
Right?
I feel like that was just as detrimental to people's mental health as maybe the virus itself.
Yeah.
I know people who are still kind of like unraveling those years because they were a sponge and just soaked up the toxicity, the polarity, the negativity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just like this mix of me teaching all of these things that literally I did every single day for years at this point.
Just like your usual practice at this point.
And for me, I felt like, wow, doesn't everybody do this? And slowly but surely people started asking me like, hey, because I was a business coach. So of course, there's always some freebie download or some giveaway thing that a course that you could go through for all of this. And people have started to ask me like, hey, do you have this all like somewhere where I can like purchase it or download it or something? And I'm like, no, these are just like my rituals and practices.
Yeah.
But at that moment, once I started getting like more and more people, my entrepreneurial mind was like, oh,
light bulb moment.
You have something here.
Uh-huh.
And at that point, I was all like, this is crazy. I've never created a physical product. I've never manufactured anything, let alone design anything like this.
That's like a whole new ballgame to like have a product that you can put your hands on. I can imagine. Mm-hmm.
But I shared that with my now fiance and I'm like, I think this is what I have to do. And it was really scary.
Yeah.
And he loves e-commerce. He's big in e-commerce and he's just like, heck yeah, let's do it. So without knowing anything about anything with e-commerce, I just dove straight in and just one by one really started plugging myself into different learning platforms to learn more about it. And I mean, fast forward now 3.5 years later, here we are sitting here talking about it.
I know. That's an incredible story. Incredible. And this is like, and this journal is blowing up. Like I've seen it before meeting you. I'd seen it.
Yeah.
And when I connected that you're the woman behind the journal, I was like, oh, I've seen that journal before. It's incredible.
Thank you.
So something you should be like so proud of.
So proud of it.
Yeah.
And not only just being so proud of it myself, but just all the lives that have been changed.
Oh, yeah.
From the journal. And me, I always just think back to that moment of that light bulb moment, that idea coming in of like, this needs to be a physical product. It doesn't belong just as a download on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought that it could have scared me enough to like not do it.
Yeah.
Is just crazy to think back on that. So it's something that I'm extremely proud of.
It's like those like I don't know, 10 seconds of courage can just like make or break a trajectory,
Yes.
which is, it
Yeah.
is kind of scary to think about.
Yeah.
But fortunately for all of us, you had the courage to put this out into the world. And I love it. It feels like it's for everyone, but you really come through it.
Hmm.
And there are some really cool things in here that you share. Like even the exact ritual you used to meet your fiance, Mark,
Yes.
who I've met, and the two of them together are just this incredible, like, power couple, both amazing people. But it was so cool to get to that ritual and be like, oh, she's like really giving us the juicy stuff here. You want to call in your partner or lover? It's in the journal.
Yes. Yes. It's all in there.
Um, Wow, what a whirlwind. I relate to a lot of your trajectory and just making that shift, maybe somewhere in the 20s to 30s, and having that whatever rock bottom is for you, whether it's a wake-up call, a health
Hmm.
crisis, or
Hmm.
what have you, and it just changes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um okay, let's like get into manifesting a bit here. Um Gosh, maybe give us your take on manifestation. I think in its like early days, like I remember watching the Secret movie, and it's a funny, like, quick story. I was in a sorority in college and I was on the leadership board, and we had to do some like programming. So I decided, well, I'm just going to make everyone watch the Secret
Love that.
movie. I remember that. But back then, it really, the movie, it was a little bit like, oh, you just think it and it will
Hmm.
happen.
Hmm.
And I think
Hmm.
manifestation has evolved, and like tools like this bridge the gap between what you desire and how to like make it happen. So just maybe like quickly, what's your take on manifestation, or where does the magic really come from there?
Oh, I love this question, obviously. But gosh, there are so many parts to manifestation. But I think the easiest and most digestible way to put it
Mhm.
is to not look at it as, I know some people look at it as like it being like magic and woo woo, and that's why they shy away from it.
Mhm.
But there is a science to it because we are all energy and we are all frequency. Like everything from this dress that I'm wearing to this chair, like everything carries an energy and a frequency.
Mhm.
And it doesn't lie, right? So when it comes to manifesting, I think the easiest way for someone to start manifesting is you have to, one, get super, super clear on what it is that you desire.
Mhm.
Number two is you have to figure out and determine what are those things that have been blocking you on your way? What's been holding you back? What have you been doubtful about? What are those things that, for example, the things you carry shame about? And like, what are those doubts in your head, those voices of you telling you that you can't attain that thing, right? Because I think it's really important to uncover those things, because if we're still holding on to those parts of us, or if we still believe that part, well, guess what? That's what you're going to manifest. So once you like identify those things, okay, now we can prove them as, hey, are they true or not? And then from there is taking inspired action towards those things that you desire. I think a lot of people get put off by manifestation because they really do think, oh, it's something that you just write down or you just create a vision board and you can lean back, relax, and be like, okay, universe, I'm waiting for it. God, I'm waiting for it. Like,
Uh-huh.
it's obviously not working. So manifestation doesn't work, right?
Uh-huh.
But you have to take action towards the thing, because the whole thing with manifestation, and because we are energy and a frequency, we are always co-creating with whatever you want to call it, whether you believe in God, source, universe, there is an energy that we all exude and that we live and thrive in. So you have to make, it's like chess, right? It's like you have to make a move, then I have to make a move. You have to make a move, then I have to make a move. So it's very similar to that in taking this inspired action towards those goals. Because as you take that action, then source, universe, God, I like use those interchangeably, but when you take that action, then it's like, okay, you can be provided an opportunity.
Right.
And then it leans into the next part of manifestation of getting really in tune with your gut, with your intuition.
Yes.
Right. And
Uh-huh.
that whole idea and download of me creating the journal, that was a freaking download. Like
Yeah.
that was an idea that just popped out of nowhere. Like I said, I'd never planned on launching a journal company. This is something that came to me outside of doing something else that I really loved and had fun doing. And this idea came. And I'm like, wait a minute. I've done this enough times throughout my career where I learned to pivot when that thing hit me that I trusted it, even though it was scary, even though I didn't know what was going to happen. I could have shut down a fully thriving online business coaching business and program to start something that could have flopped. Right?
Yeah.
So when we are super clear, we're then identifying those limiting beliefs, basically, those things that are holding us back. And then when we are starting to take action on those things, like that's when the manifestations start happening. And then it's just having, additionally on top of that, trusting your intuition, trusting and believing, not being wishy-washy with the universe. I think that's the biggest one. I think a lot of people expect those instant results because we're so used to that Amazon same day, next day delivery.
Next day delivery. No patience anymore.
Right? So we're not used to having to wait for things anymore.
Right.
And we tend to have that spill over into our lives.
Yes.
So when it comes to manifesting, it's like, accomplishing your goals. It's not going to happen overnight, right? Like you didn't get to where you are today overnight. You didn't say if you're trying to manifest weight loss or anything, like you didn't gain all that weight that maybe you're trying to lose or get rid of. You didn't do that overnight, right? Same with getting into a loving relationship. If you're seeking that, like it takes time to build partnerships and friendships and get to know each other, right? That's not going to happen overnight. So I think also having that certainty where it's like, I know deep down to my core, I want and desire X, Y, and Z. And from there, no matter what, like staying on track with it and not being like one day, I see this a lot in the dating world, but a lot of like, oh yeah, I really want a boyfriend. I really want a husband, goes out on a couple awful Bumble dates. And then it's like, oh, well, screw dating. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
guilty. Yeah.
So I call that, don't be wishy-washy with the universe. Don't be wishy-washy with God, because you never know, that fourth date could have been the guy that you finally figured out all the things that you didn't like on those crappy dates where your king showed up in that fourth, So it's all about this mindset of just really, it's trusting. Like we've all probably heard it, universe has always got your back.
Yes.
Trust it, trust the flow, trust the energy, and just constantly doing, and I can get into 10 million things along with manifestation to help elevate your lifestyle. But most importantly, taking care of your mental health, having that really good morning routine. Do the things that light you up. Start cutting out the things that make you feel like crap or you don't enjoy. Whether it's a job, a relationship, a friendship, a task or hobby that you're kind of doing or whatever. But the more you can increase joy and happiness in your life, I promise, the more beautiful manifestations will start happening, because your energy, your frequency is now raising in vibration. And those things that we usually want, right? Say whether it's more money, a good relationship, a really good job, more income. Those are things that are vibrating in a really high vibration,
level,
right?
And you got to match that.
So doing all of those things, it's and I always say, don't try listening to this podcast and doing a complete lifestyle overhaul. Just start with those little things. Because at the end of the day, and I always say this, it's like manifesting or manuscripting. It's a lifestyle. It's not just a one and done kind of a thing.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And if you get into the journal, you can see how this is not just a little activity. This is a way to live your life.
Yeah.
And I love everything you just said. I do think I'm reminded, I sat in this workshop recently, and it was a personal development workshop. And the speaker offered, instead of asking yourself who am I? Ask yourself, how am I? And then apply that to what you want to call in. Say you want to be healthy. I want to be a healthy person. Well, how does a healthy person act? And write that down. Or you can be more playful with it. Say I want to be feel into some archetype, I want to be a queen or a goddess. Well, how does a goddess act? And just write it down. How does she care for herself in the morning? And then you have to start embodying that in your own life. And a lot of what you said was that's the action step.
Yeah.
It's okay, you want $1 million, you got to like act like you can handle $1 million.
Yes.
And I think you touch on that in here
Yes.
to match the frequency of what you're calling in. Like you want your king or your man. You better be the match for that king you're like,
Right.
dreaming of.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a lot of personal work.
So much personal work.
And you touched on that. You kind of have to confront yourself
Mm-hmm.
and be honest with yourself. Where are you holding yourself back? And what are the habits that are, unnecessary or
Mm-hmm.
what's causing unnecessary stress in your life? And what I love is like the first third of the journal walks you through all this. Like you don't have to just like, go through this yourself. Like that's what I feel like the first
Yes.
big chunk of this book is like unraveling all of that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Learning to take that radical responsibility. And
Yes.
because a lot of us like to place blame on others, right? We blame others or politics or our environment or our boss or our friends, right? For our situation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like once we can look in the mirror and be like, hey, what was my part in this? How did I show up in this? How did I react in this? What did I do or not do? Oh, that's the toughest one. And it's uncomfortable.
It's
and
cringy.
It's
and
cringy.
It's hard to like replay that in your head or own it.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
And that's okay. And I think that's the one step that majority of people miss and don't do with manifesting because it's uncomfortable, because it sucks. But I promise you, it's like once you do that part, it's like you can own that part of yourself and you almost like look at her as, oh my gosh, like you almost kind of like feel sorry for her. Like, oh, wow. Like you send her that love of like, oh,
she didn't know what she didn't know.
She didn't know. She did the best she could with what she knew.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean you are still that person today. That's how we change and grow. But then one other part that we didn't touch on as well as part of like the manifesting process is the whole piece on gratitude, which I think is the biggest piece, is if you cannot be grateful for what you have today, oh, bless it. It's like you are not going to be able to call in more tomorrow.
Yes.
So I think just being that grateful for everything. And you can incorporate that in so many ways throughout your day. When you wake up, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just grateful for this like cozy, warm bed. Right?
I know. Just
these
to
little
like
things.
Have your cup of coffee and have the time for that in the morning. It can be the small things where you find the gratitude or you start there.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that it's called the Maniscripting Journal.
Yeah.
Very clever.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like writing is like a very important part of your process. And I'd love to relate this. So let's say someone's trying to improve their wellness. Maybe they have a weight loss goal. Maybe they know they're really inflamed. There's just these new symptoms happening, hormonal issues. I'd love to know, how can like a journal practice or how can a journal practice help us with our wellness goals, which feel like, sometimes we're manifesting the job or the boyfriend, but when it's our health, it's almost like an inside out manifestation.
Yeah. I think when it comes to health and wellness, and, I have so many women in my community that are trying to manifest, better health, whether they're suffering with a disease or an illness or weight loss or any of those sorts of things, right? Like all of those things start happening in us because there is dis-ease inside the body, right? And we all know there's so many studies, especially I know you're a fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work.
Yes.
Like we know how powerful the mind is.
Yes.
We know how powerful the body is. And for most of us, I believe we are so disconnected from our bodies. Yeah. So disconnected. And it goes back to like simple question is like, do you trust your intuition? If that's a no, you're disconnected from your body because our bodies are always speaking to us. So as far as like journaling and writing and thinking about all these things is like when you have your journal practice, and if you're using in a way like the Maniscripting Journal where the prompt is to begin writing, it's I'm so happy and grateful that, and you start writing, I'm so happy and grateful that my body is so healthy, and put in all those desires that you want, right? Not talking about it in a way. It's like, I'm so happy and healthy that, like, I'm so happy and grateful that I'm not sick anymore. No, you're putting sick into the words. So it's always making sure you're saying the positive side of what it is that you want. But when you first do the Maniscripting Journal first thing in the morning, you're programming your brain to believe and think that you are healthy, that you are well, that you are healing, right? So not only does that allow us to then take that action like a healthy person, right? So for example, maybe you need to start, your goal is to start going to the gym, or maybe your goal is to start eating healthier. Well, if you're writing down every single morning, every single day about this belief that you are now healthy and doing all of these good things for yourself, well, then of course you're going to start taking that positive action towards that. So that's one side of it. And I truly believe the other side of it with Dr. Joe Dispenza. And if you listening haven't read his books or watched his videos, like, oh my gosh, you have to, especially if you're struggling with any sort of health and wellness issue, because the power of the mind is so, so powerful. It's just like, we all know, it's like the more often you're telling yourself, you're dumb, you're stupid, all of that, like how low does our self-confidence get?
Right.
It's awful, right? The same thing goes with different things in our body. And, I've experienced and seen, not personally, but seen it in others. Oh, actually, I have experienced it personally with myself. I can maybe share that story, but I've seen it happen where over time, like people have truly healed themselves because of their mind. Of course, maybe with the assistance of doing the right physical things that our reality provides, but a lot of it does come down to mindset. So
it does. And I see it in my clinic all the time. And people will come in, and there's some people who identify so much with the condition or the disease. And it has kind of like taken over their life, and their life now kind of revolves around this diagnosis. And I think the people who, sure, maybe you are given some information, maybe you've been given a concerning diagnosis, the people who don't let that sort of define them and are like, all right, what do we need to do to just push past this, or make the changes or manage this the best we can, they do so much better. And I get to see it all the time. And I think it's like the spells or the story you're telling yourself every day. So if you're constantly identifying, like, say something like fibromyalgia, just like generalized inflammation everywhere. Well, if you're constantly repeating to yourself, I have fibromyalgia, and that's kind of like day in, day out, I don't want to say excuse because that sounds harsh, but I'm tired because I have fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
That's a story you're kind of telling yourself and your body all day long. So you have to change the language.
Yeah.
And something like this is a tool to help you do that, shift the mindset.
Definitely.
It's really powerful. And then also, like you were mentioning, we are so out of touch with our bodies. And I think when we're out of touch with our bodies, we're probably also out of touch with those big power centers, like our intuition and the heart and like our higher self, not just like the chatter.
Yeah.
And when you have a practice, whether it's journaling, meditating, or all of the above, and you're just quiet with yourself, that's when I think these power centers kind of come back online and you can hear them. So that when you get a download, like, ooh, like that just hit me in the heart. Like there's something there. And you can start to discern between like what's an impulse based in fear or what's like a download that is like, oh, I need to listen to that.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like with doing that, it just takes like anything else. We're going to the gym, working out your muscles, trying to get strong biceps. Like same thing goes with intuition. It's all about practicing and using it and just doing it. So like I said, when I had that download to create the journal, that feeling was one, annoying because I just built my business like to be like running fully out. And I was so excited about it. I'm like, really? Like this is coming in right now? But I knew from previous experiences where at first that download, it won't make freaking sense to you. And I guarantee you, if you share it with somebody else close to you, they're going to probably think you're crazy.
Yes. Yeah, I think you have to discern. Sometimes you get these crazy ideas and maybe I'll protect this for a little while. Like I need this to like really sink in before I share and maybe let someone else's reaction or opinion like sway me.
Exactly. But a lot of the times they are uncomfortable. But I always say this, it's like when that message, that download comes to you, it is for you. And you might be afraid to act on it, but at least just entertain it. put a little bit, you don't have to tell anybody about it right away, but put a little bit of effort to it. Because there's this one book that I read, there's plenty of books about this, but one book that really sticks out, it's called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert.
Oh, I haven't read that one.
And she first introduced this concept to me where, in our whole planet, all of us, we're part of this one consciousness, right? We're the energy, we're the frequency. And I can prove this because say you have this idea and you don't act on it. Well, that idea is going to come to fruition somehow. And if it doesn't come through you, it's going to go to somebody else.
Ooh.
And how many times have you ever seen out in the world, maybe it's on a TV commercial, maybe you've seen it in a store where you're like, what the heck? I thought of that. I thought of that years ago.
Oh, yeah. I can think of that. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it gives me the chills talking about it because it is so true. And all of these different ideas and just messages are all floating around all the time, waiting and ready to be, created into this reality. So I always say to like all of my students and clients and community, it's like, when that comes to you, a lot of times it's not going to make sense. A lot of times you're not going to know how, but it's like your birthright one is to come into this world to be abundant. And the next one is we all have this really special gift that's so personal to us that no one else can birth except for us. So to take that action on it, because you have no idea what impact it's going to make and make change in the world. Like I just constantly think about that. Like I literally am a product of like what I preach with this.
Yes, it gave me chills as you were saying all of that. Ooh,
yeah. So it's just so important for us to just like take that action. Because I know the other side of it is, it's a lot of reason why so many people are in my community where it's, you get to a point at a certain age where, you're in your 30s or 40s and it's like, you don't know what you want. You don't like the career that you're in. You don't like the relationship that you're in. You're confused. You're just like in this place of lostness. So it's like, if we could just, and this is all because we're programmed to be this way. This isn't your fault. Like we're programmed this through school, through social media, through our environment,
and all of
that sort of stuff, right? So to be able to be like, okay, wait a minute. I know society wants me to do this. And I know I might seem crazy for wanting to do that, but this is where, God or source, universe, whatever that higher powers that you believe in, like when you're getting that deep down desire in your heart and your gut and your intuition, it's like you have to take that action on it. At least a little bit, at least try.
Just a little, yeah.
A little
step towards it.
Yeah.
Feel into it. Yes. I mean, hopefully if someone is listening to this, that right there, I had chills as you were going through that. So hopefully that inspires someone today to, take a little action towards something they've been dreaming of. Well, let me ask you personally, a little insight into your day. I always like to get a little insight into someone's day. We're all obsessed with like morning routines. And, you see Instagram and all these things we all should be doing in the morning. And it's like, do I need a 4-hour morning routine? So as like the Maniscripting Journal queen here, I would love to know, like, how long is your morning routine?
Oh, I love this question. And Mark and I joke about this all the time. Actually, we had some friends staying with us this past weekend, and we were just joking how like we could each both have a 6-hour morning routine.
I wish I could.
Oh my gosh, all of the things, right? It just feels so good and so yummy, and it just makes you like feel amazing. But there are other things to do. There's life to do. So for me is I have finally gotten myself to a place. And I know for a lot of people listening, like, one, I don't have kids. I just have a cute little golden retriever pup named Milo. Oh. So there's one thing off my plate that I don't have to kind of like
wake up and immediately
right. So for me, I've gotten myself to a place in my life and business where I wake up without an alarm. I cannot stand alarms. I can't.
So I'll just comment. Not everyone can do that every day. Mm-hmm. I need an alarm 5 days a week, but I give myself 2 days a week to not have the alarm. Yeah. And I generally don't sleep past 7:30 often anyways, so I don't have to worry about like sleeping until noon accidentally. But if you can give yourself at least 2 days a week where there's no alarm, your nervous system, oh my gosh, it's like it's a game
Yeah.
changer.
Yeah. And you understand
And
this.
yeah, I would do it more. Maybe I will try to shift to more days a week because I can pretty much depend. Now I like naturally wake up at 7:30, but oh, I love not waking up to an alarm.
Yeah. And everyone can get to that point. I truly believe that because if you start tuning into the sun and your circadian rhythm,
Mm-hmm.
like naturally, if you're, going to sleep at a decent hour, I know for like women, we need kind of about 8 to 9 hours of sleep, men's a little less. But if you can just kind of time it right, like I'm to a point where just because I don't use an alarm, it doesn't mean I sleep until like 10 a.m. every day.
No, yeah,
Like today, I woke up naturally 6 a.m.
right.
Usually it's around 7:30 a.m.
But to not have that like jolt to your
Oh my
nervous
gosh,
system.
it's amazing. Like
Yes.
I do not miss that like you just instantly
just
feel that cortisol rising. Like the
triggers
second,
your fight or flight response the
Yes.
second you wake up. I so
Mhm.
agree. Okay, so you don't set an alarm.
Don't set an alarm.
Mm-hmm.
And then right away, it's just like, get up, brush your teeth, that stuff. I head downstairs. I make my like green probiotic, all the things kind of drink.
Green drink.
Yes. And then from there, I get on my couch. I put on a guided meditation.
Okay.
I do that. That's usually about 8 minutes. And then right after that, straight into journaling, which the journal, I timed myself the other day, actually. I was like, wait, how long does this actually take? I kind of forget because I've been doing it for so long. And it's like literally about 5-6 minutes tops. So I do all that. And then from there, it's either taking some time just to kind of like, just kind of get into the day. So I'll make now my lemon water, or I'll make a coffee or breakfast or my protein shake, go walk Milo. Or some days it is just getting up and I have to get to the gym. Like today it was like, do that, get to the gym, come home, start business calls. Now I'm here, that kind of stuff. So every day is so different for me as a business owner. But my morning routine, like no matter what, like if I'm seeing the night before that I'm having a heavy day the next day, like it is literally my non-negotiable. And if there are days where we're getting up and I have to travel right away, or there's something, in the way of that I really cannot do it, like I feel it. I can tell.
Yeah.
And I literally will do it the next moment I can, which might be lunchtime or something later in the day. I do get it done every single day, but it just helps me get my mind right. Because in the journal, the different prompts, it even asks you for your inspired action steps. Like what 3 things are you going to do today to help you manifest your goals and the things that you're grateful for? So it's just such a great tool. And it's not even to toot my own horn. Like truly, it's such a great way to just like start the day.
It is. Yeah. I love how you've set it up because it can actually be your planner too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there's a prompt daily that you complete. And I'm glad. I just was like, how long are we putting in, how much time are we putting in this in the morning? And I wanted to get the real answer.
There you go.
But yeah, it's really not that. It's not like you're adding an hour to your morning.
Absolutely not. I don't have that time.
Yeah.
Like
not many
I wish
people
I
do.
could. I would love to just sit there and daydream about my goals and write them all out. But we got to take that action.
Absolutely. Yes. But I love that too. Sometimes it's quick and you just can, get the prompt done. Some mornings you can get like all into it and maybe have an hour of time to really feel into it.
Exactly.
But yeah, thank you for a little insight there.
Yeah.
And then I'll just wrap, would love to know, if there's anything you're working on, like manifesting in your world where you're if you feel comfortable to share.
Yeah. Actually, the one next big thing, like I have a lot of different things going on in the next year. For example, I'm like getting married and lots of fun things
this is
to
a big
follow
year.
that.
Yeah.
So it's a big year. But the one thing that we are excited, or I'm excited to like birth next, is actually the Maniscripting Man Journal.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh. So needed.
So needed.
I don't know why. Women seem more drawn to this. But we need the men doing the work too.
Yeah.
And I've been like meeting a lot of incredible men lately who are also trying to like heal themselves and raise their vibe and be good partners and fathers and all the things. And I'm sure your fiance Mark is kind of helping you shift this to a more manly edition.
He is. It's going to be much more very masculine. We're not tapping into like the other side of that, it's going to be very masculine driven because it is for our men. Because as women that are elevating, and I'm seeing this, I'm having a lot of conversations recently about this. It's like, there's so much of this stuff that's very popular and accessible for women, through social media. It's all accessible to us and we all talk about it.
Yeah.
But
I'll tell someone, oh, I'm going to like a women's circle, and that's not like too weird. We're very accepting of this kind of work, whereas a man might not feel as comfortable.
Yeah. And, Mark has his group of guys that he does weekly or every other weekly, like you'd consider a men's circle that he goes to and things like that. And he had to seek that out. But men don't really talk about this stuff. I think slowly but surely more and more are. But what I'm seeing and what a lot of other women can relate to is like we're seeing all these women rise and we're rising and we're figuring out what we want. We're no longer, just, settling.
Not settling.
That's what it is, not settling. And at the same time, and this isn't all men by any means, I'm not going to blanket it like that, but I do hear a lot of the conversations from a lot of single women that are just freaking incredible women.
Yeah.
And it's like, how the hell is she still single? And then you hear the stories about like, well, this guy this guy that. And you just see it online with all the stuff that's accessible for men and women too. And I'm not doing one side or the other, but I do know that we need more things out there for men to help them, tap into their true and highest self and help them heal. Because that's where, if each side isn't healing, then all they're bringing to the relationship is trauma. And most of that is toxic. So that's why you end up having lots of these toxic relationships and relationships that don't last very long because we don't have those healed parts of ourselves. So I'm really excited to be able to create and bring another product to the market to like help the other side elevate as well. Because it's been something that's been asked for us.
We need the balance.
Yes.
We need the yin and the yang.
Yes. Yes.
Acupuncturist here.
Yeah.
I think that's incredible. And what a cool thing to create with your partner and to bring Mark even more into it. So I'll be so excited it'll be fun to sort of compare and see what the men's journal looks like.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this conversation, Samantha.
Thank you.
I cannot recommend this journal enough. And I actually have a client who's got all these nieces graduating. And I was like, hold on, I've got like the best gift you could give them. So it's like graduation month. If you have like a sister, a niece, a daughter in your life, a friend, this is like such an incredible gift. And there's so much in here. It's like an experience. You like made a playlist to do during your rituals, all kinds of education on the crystals, how to use them.
And plus there's the online community too.
Yes.
Where I teach free masterclasses every single month and you can go there to ask questions and share.
You get support through it.
So you're not alone during this either because that can be very hard too.
It's a community as well.
Yeah.
How can people find you on social media or the website, or where can they get the journal?
Yeah. So for me, I'm the most active on Instagram. I share a lot of behind the scenes of business, my life, inspirational stuff about changing your life and manifestation. So it's just my full name, Instagram.com/Samantha Kozuch. To buy the journal, it's at Maniscripting.com. And you can follow us on Instagram, the Maniscripting Journal too.
Yeah. It's also, I found it on Amazon.
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
So, I mean, if you need us in a pinch, it came quickly.
Yeah, like if you order from Maniscripting.com, we have pretty fast shipping. But if you get on Amazon, get that Prime.
I know. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. Everybody go check out Samantha and get this journal. It's such a gift to yourself. And we'll see you next time on the Good Body Podcast.